Hello and welcome back to another episode of Doctor in a Bikini. I am joined by one of my favorite bikini babes in the entire industry, Ali Vatthauer. I got to meet her for the first time, a happy little accident last year at Junior Nats, and she actually gave me my medal, and then I low-key, high-key fangirled a little bit, and then we met each other at the coffee shop the next morning. So thank you for coming onto my podcast. This is so wild. I'm just so happy to have you here.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's really like this is such an honor, honestly. I love just chatting with people and being a part of podcasts and stuff. So I'm really honored that you would ask me to do this. So thank you.
Oh my God, absolutely. And for those who live under a rock, let's also just say the fact that you were literally coming on to a podcast episode, your peak week of the freaking Olympia, the 60th Olympia, and your first Olympia.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
Oh my
so
God.
excited for that. But yes, you're correct. It is peak week, but it is a relatively quiet day for me today. So it's actually pretty perfect. I just have like a little bit of a rest day today before all the craziness starts for the week. So yeah, this was actually a really good, really,
Yeah.
really good time to do this.
And I should say, I feel so rude for not asking before we were on camera, but are you okay, like weather-wise? Because you're in
Oh
Florida, right?
gosh. Yes. So I'm glad that you asked. Actually, that has been really heavy on my mind today. So, I mean, full transparency, yeah, today has been a little bit stressful in the way of weather stuff. So I am definitely though some weather patterns are showing that the hurricane's actually going to move south of us. So we won't be right direct path, but some of them are showing that where we're at and Clearwater, Tampa area is in the direct path of this hurricane that's supposed to come through. So I actually did switch my flight. I was supposed to originally fly out on Wednesday morning,
Mhm.
and I switched my flight to Tuesday morning. So I will be flying out. My husband is supposed to fly out on Thursday morning.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just hoping, I've heard a lot of different mixed reviews. There's a lot of stuff still up in the air right now as far as like evacuations and things like that. Luckily, we are like in an area where, I mean, God forbid, like our areas were under evacuation. We're kind of like third on the list to be evacuated. So hopefully we're in the clear, but I don't know. Still kind of, like I said, a lot of stuff up in the air right now, but like I'm really hoping that I can like at least have him there. I think that's the thing that I'm most concerned about is like, I mean, cool, like I'm leaving fine, but I'm worried because we have our dogs and we have him who's supposed to be flying out on Thursday. And it's like, well, if it really hits this area, then it's like it's kind of, I don't know, a lot of questions, but he has
Yeah.
until Saturday to get there. So I'm
Oh my
hoping everything
gosh.
works out just fine. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And like for one, all everything you're saying, I'm just thinking about all the athletes that you help because I know that you coach yourself. What insight you must be gaining with how to try and control the little controllables you have and how to help talk people through, hey, I literally was worried about hurricanes and here's what I was able to do. So, I mean,
Yeah.
terrible
No.
lesson to have to go through, but
Yeah. No, I
dang.
mean, I actually really appreciate you bringing that up because I think that it is also something that I've had to kind of tap back in for myself because it's like, yeah, I'm gaining that experience, but I did have kind of a similar weird situation, not like with weather per se, but I had a similar situation happen last year for junior nats whenever I was like going pro. And there was a lot of things that I couldn't control in that moment. And it was like about tapping into that, like, what can I control? I can control my emotions. I can control like, how I respond to the situation, but I can't control what's going on. So obviously here we are again. I can't control the weather, but I can control how I react to things. And obviously I've done everything that I can in my power to make this work. And I guess that's kind of all that we can do. And yeah, you're right. Like it is just such a good reminder to like how I have to guide people through that stuff. And there's always life happens in a ton of different situations. It's not just competing, but like in any situation, life happens. So you just have to kind of like understand how to work through those situations and no matter what is thrown your way. So yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I always joke. I feel like for some reason peak week just inevitably is when just stuff and life happens for me. Like I've gone through multiple job changes the week of peak week or literally I think it was for USA's this past yeah, this past July, we were closing on our first house. Like there's always just stuff going on. So, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good tool and a good precedent to set for people that I feel like I don't like absolutes usually, but I feel like life will never just be perfect 100% for peak week and show day. It's just not going to go that way. So,
Exactly, exactly. And it's all about how you react to it. And honestly, that's how that's how we grow through things too. Like no matter what, you could take weather, you could take closing in a house or, whatever the case is, there's still things that you have to work through. And that's always going to be like a situation for an opportunity for growth. So yeah,
yeah.
I like that a lot.
Well, you mentioned junior nats. I feel like that's a good pivoting point
Yes.
to talk about your road to pro. So I would love, I'm sure people that are listening to the episode have heard of you or, have followed your journey, but could you share a little bit about your path from here, from then to now? Because I do know there's some people listening that are even thinking about starting competing, and there's people trying to go pro. So I would love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah. So I always love to start out by telling people that like I was never into the gym at all. Like I was never someone who was like love going to the gym. Like I make it my life, that sort of thing. Even now I coach younger women that have been going to the gym. They're like 19 years old and they've been going to the gym for like 3 years already. And I'm like, at 19 years old, I was like, I'm cool. I'm gonna go out. Like I was like trying to go out at 19. Like, where's my fake ID? Because I just want to like have fun. And I never had one, like side note. But
For the record.
yeah, for the record, I didn't have one. But um no, I was never into the gym. I mean, I was a cheerleader in high school, but I didn't play like crazy sports or anything like that. And I think my husband had actually like quick, long story short, my husband went into the military. And while he was in the military, that's kind of when I picked up lifting. And I wanted to kind of start keep like working on myself and stuff. So that's what I did. And not soon after he got back, I was like, I think I want to compete. And there was really no reason for it other than I just wanted to get on stage. It's like when a little girl wants to be a princess for Halloween. It's like
Yeah.
I just wanted to wear some sparkly bikini and like really pretty shoes on. So I wanted to look really pretty on stage, and that's that. I didn't have any idea going into this, like what I wanted my like pro debut to look like, or like what I wanted to be on the Olympia stage one day or anything like that. I just literally thought, well, I just want to look pretty on stage. And so I had tried to coach myself to my first show, and it obviously was not going well. So I hired a coach to help me through that part. And so basically, I started seriously lifting. And then a year later, I stepped on stage for the first time. So it was like I had no real experience doing anything. And I just like got on stage. That same year, I did my first national show as well. So I went and I did my first regional show, and then I went to nationals there. And
Wow.
again, no expectations or anything like that. I just thought, let's just do it. Why not? Like, I just want to keep, having fun. It was awesome. I was addicted. And from there, obviously, I got more serious about it. This was something that became much more than just like wearing a sparkly bikini on stage. And I really made it my life. Like, it was something that like I became super passionate about, super just into, and like I found a way that I could express myself through bodybuilding, which um I guess I could go off on a tangent about this really, but like I grew up an only child. So like, I mean, I obviously wasn't like ever suppressed or anything like that, but I do feel like I found this is my outlet. This is like the way that I, am able to really show people who I am, or even sometimes kind of put on an alternate personality on stage, which I
Totally.
oftentimes like to tell people when they're like, well, how do I not be nervous on stage? Well, I mean, like, it's like an alter ego kind of, like I can
100%.
yeah. So like, I mean, I am myself, but at the same time, it's like I'm a different version of myself on stage, and it's so much fun to me. So really, I mean, from my first show all the way to 2023 when I turned pro, it was pretty much like, just the normal, usual, like I'm building, I'm improving, I'm trying to best myself, I'm gaining experience, I'm, stepping on the stages, I'm going to the national shows, I'm being a part of this, I'm like, really trying to like make myself better. And it all obviously came to a head last year when it like, when the time was right, it happened. And it was just honestly, it just like the years that I spent improving and growing really just made that win so much better. It's like you spend this time working so hard for something and improving in something that when it finally happens, it's like, yes, I did that. I achieved that. And that I think is the best win of all. It's not the pro card, it's not anything else. It's just literally like I achieved something that I've been working so hard for.
100%. So much that you said there, I was like, I totally get it, which side note, ADD brain here, you're gonna laugh. So before we hop in this call, for people with context here, we were talking about a lot of weird similarities we have. And you're like, oh, I was a cheerleader before I started lifting. I was like, I was a cheerleader before I started lifting. Were you a
I feel
base
like
too?
a lot of us were like, I don't know
Yeah.
like what it is about bikini competitors, but I feel like a lot of us were like at least cheerleaders, if not some other like sport, but a lot of us were cheerleaders, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel like especially like your posing is super smooth too. I think when people have some sort of dance or cheer background, you can kind of see that stage presence pop out, you know?
Yes.
So I'm
Okay,
like,
so wait, now cheerleader, were you like a base or a back or
I was a base.
same, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes. And it's so funny whenever like you meet other people that are bases and you're like, wait, you look like you should be a flyer because I feel like I feel that way about you. And
Yeah.
like
Oh
that's what
yeah,
else
'cause I'm
people say about me
short,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, base.
That's okay. Honestly, I was good with it. I was like, let me lift the people. I don't need to be in the air. Like that kind of frightened me a little bit, to be
A little
honest.
bit, yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I loved everything you said between to just the accomplishment because I always say to people, getting on stage for a bucket list item, awesome. That's authentic to you. It's not necessarily a specific idea of what you should look like. Because I tell people if your goal is just simply aesthetic, then you might not feel as satisfied with a win or a placing because we always want to work on something with how we look like. So then that goal isn't specific enough and isn't fulfilled. But when it's a personal achievement, you can still feel like you won no matter what show that you're walking away from. And I feel like I felt that implied from you that every show has been successful for a different reason.
Yes, yes,
Um,
exactly. And I feel like that a lot of people tend to get caught up in a win, but like yes, the placing can sting a little bit. It can like suck a little bit if it's not going the way that you want it to go. Obviously, we all want to win, right? But ultimately, like step back and look at the big picture and go, okay, what is bodybuilding? Like the whole point of bodybuilding is to build your body and improve and always show up a better version of yourself. So as long as that's happening, the win will come, the pro
mhm,
card will come, those things will come, but you have to just keep the focus on besting yourself because that's really why we're all in this journey in the first place.
totally. Was there one show that you remember as being maybe the most challenging for you or taught you like a really big lesson?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of these regional shows always did for some reason, and I don't think I'm alone in this, but I think that they always make me more nervous, and I don't know why. Like national shows, there's a bunch of people there. It's like I'm kind of lost in the crowd. I don't want to say lost in the crowd, but like I'm kind of one of a bunch of people, right? And then in a regional show, it's more like it's a little bit more intimate. There's less people there. And I mean, the competition can be fierce and like it's kind of that challenges you in general. And I think that I can like specifically remember like I think it was 2021 or 22 maybe when it was like a year I did the Pittsburgh I did the amateur, obviously the amateur portion, and I got second place in my class. And I just remember like walking out of there and I had to like gather myself to like go somewhere and just cry about it because I was like so disappointed that I was like, why is this not happening for me? Like, why can't I just do better? Like, that sort of thing. And I think that that was like kind of a turning point for me where I was like, I don't want to just keep competing just to compete. Like, I want to like actually be better. And I feel like that show definitely challenged me because I one had to like manage my own emotions and then two also had to kind of like, okay, what do I ultimately want out of this? Do I want to just keep like competing to compete or am I actually going for something that I need to like step back and like be, make improvements to do something better? And don't I always like to say don't get upset, get better, like to myself. And that's kind of like
Yeah.
what I had to do in that moment. So yeah, that one was the one that really did challenge me.
I think that that's a really good point to talk about because especially in the bikini division, I feel like there are so many of us and understanding that even people that we look up to or people that, equally deserve to win. I don't know, because there's so many of us, I think sometimes it can feel discouraging of is it ever going to happen for me? Am I going to get that first place? Everyone looks so beautiful, everyone looks so great. Will it ever be my time? And just hearing from people like yourself that we all had to start somewhere. We've all had, last place finishes, second place finishes. It's part of the beauty of the sport.
Exactly, exactly. And I want to like go back and be like, hold on a minute, Allie, like second place really isn't that bad, but like I
Yeah.
understand that like that, it wasn't last place or anything like that, but I think it was more so just like, you talk yourself up, you like talk a big game to yourself and you're like, yeah, like I feel this one, like I'm really in it, and you like kind of talk that up in your brain. And then when it doesn't happen, it's almost like even more of a like sucker punch. So
Mhm.
yeah, back up to like second place is not bad. Like, but
No,
in my
no.
mind at that moment, I was like, oh my God.
Totally. Yeah. Because I think I always tell people, I'm like, you are completely valid in your emotions and what you're feeling. Although, especially when we have a platform, I get we want to be careful with what we say too. Because but there's one episode that I talked about where I got second place at USA's. And I mean, I was full on spiritual girly backstage. I had my amethyst, I had my my little Palo Santo with me. I had my little spiritual guide cards, and I literally felt like I was gonna win. So to feel so spiritually aligned, and then for it just to not maybe happen how I thought it was going to,
Yeah.
it's okay for when it's not the outcome you expected to be sad, even though still someone else is like, I'll take that second place.
Yeah. Right. I'll be happy with it. Yeah, I know
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
What
Perspective.
would you say you're most excited for and maybe most nervous for with this first Olympia, if
Oh,
that's the right word?
that's a really good question, honestly. I try not to be nervous at this stage in the game. I really do. I try to kind of um I feel that my nerves really how I want to like put this into words properly because it's like it's such a good question that I've actually like I haven't gotten a chance to really think about. And I think it's because I'm trying not to like think about
Mhm.
what would make me nervous in a sense. And
Totally.
but it's valid. Like that is also a very valid feeling because like there's a lot of unknowns that come with this. Like especially going into something so large. Like I've been to the Arnold, but I've never been to the Olympia. It's funny because like I've never actually attended an Olympia and here I am like attending my first Olympia actually competing in it.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, it's actually like I think that's the most nerve-wracking part is like I have to um in a sense manage the way that I am presenting myself to other people in a very large setting. And I think that is the part that I want to like, put my best foot forward in a sense and like I'm so excited to meet everybody. I that is what I'm really excited about. It's exciting to me to meet everybody and experience this on such a large scale, but at the same time, that is the part that makes me the most nervous.
Mhm.
And
Totally.
it really isn't like being on stage in front of all these people. It's not any of that. I think as a pro, you have to kind of like take that like stage fright and shove it down in there.
Mhm.
But no, that part doesn't make me nervous. I think it's more so just like the scale of people that are going to be there and like how big this is and just
Yeah.
coming to terms with that. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's such a healthy approach too. And there was a mentor one time that they told me, and I hold on to it whenever it's a maybe higher pressure feeling that I'm having with a certain show. I mean, not that I've ever been to the Olympia, so like I can't vouch for that, but her piece of advice really resonated with me. She said when she goes on stage, she goes, whenever I feel like I'm nervous, I just say, oh no, it's not nerves, it's excitement. So really, I'm excited. So
I love that reframing. That's a really
yeah,
good reframing piece. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to use it because
yes, please do.
that's extremely good advice because it's like when you tell it's like perception of your that real whatever you're perceiving of that reality is your reality. And so when you're perceiving yourself as nervous, you're telling yourself that you're nervous, you're gonna be nervous. That
Hmm.
if you tell yourself that you're excited, then you're
Hmm.
gonna be excited. Yeah, it's a crazy like reframing, but I really like that. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I hope you think about that before your heel. gets the stage there, as my friend Celeste says. 'Cause
Most definitely will.
for the questions too, there were a lot of girls that I wanted to ask you some questions. One girl
Oh,
specifically, oh yeah, people were so excited to hear from you.
oh, that makes me so happy. Honestly, like it's so cool. Okay, I'm really excited to hear these questions, honestly.
Oh yeah, well, I think honestly, you're just so genuine, and that shows. Like, okay, wait, can I be real and be like a weirdo for 2 seconds?
Please, please.
Like, I am normally not a fangirl, and I can't believe like I'm admitting this, but so Junior Nats is very special to me because my coach got her pro card there. So she's fitness Sally Williams. And when I was doing prep last year, I did 4 shows in a row. As always, there's a lot of life that happens, and it was testing in a good way. But there was a point where like my tank was running out of gas. So
Mhm.
any inspirational content, that you can try and consume. Well, your team, they do really good with social media and marketing and promoting their athletes. And there was one video they did that was just a bunch of videos put together. And part of the video was of junior Nats, and it was all of the FBF athletes there. And they had the perfect music in the background, and they literally had people winning their pro cards. And you were part of that video. It literally, Allie, made me cry because
Oh,
I felt so like, because you're bikini, right? And I was
mhm.
manifesting and I was seeing myself, oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional. I was
Oh,
seeing
that's so
myself
sweet.
winning. So like it was still so special to me, like having like you give me your medal. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm getting chills
Oh
because
my God. No, I just got chills. That was so sweet. No, honestly, I'm so happy you shared that because that is incredible just to hear just from you and just like hearing that emotion that brings about in you just shows how much the sport is embedded in a lot of us and that like your passion for that. And I really admire that from you. And so thank you
oh,
for
thank
sharing
you.
that with
Yeah.
me.
Oh my gosh. And like I love that I told you, but also I was like, oh, fangirl moment.
No,
But
no, I'm
it's
so
just
happy you told me. I love that. I love that for
It's
you. That's
it's
so
just because like you could feel, and that was my point, it was like you could feel how genuine and of a human was winning it. So it just like for me, I was like, I don't even know her, but like I love that. And this video is so motivating. And so yeah, just like it was a cool full circle. And then for me to freaking run into you at the coffee shop the next day, I was like,
It
what
was
is
like meant to be. Like it literally was the universe like bringing us together. And I'm really,
yeah,
really happy that we met too, because that was just amazing. Oh
thanks.
gosh,
Okay.
it's so
Okay,
good.
questions about you, enough
Okay.
emotions from Cannon. So the first most recent one, someone said she looked amazing at Daytona Pro Show. I would love to hear what her feedback was.
Oh, this was such a good one. And I actually thought about that when you said which show is the most challenging for you. And I do think that it was also on the list of shows that was very challenging for me. And that's because again, I had to manage my own emotions over it because I'm going into the Olympia. I kind of touched on it a little bit in the post that I made, but it wasn't like as deep as I feel like I really was feeling. Because it was humbling. Like it was a humbling took me down a peg for a second because I was like my rookie pro season, I was placing second, and I think my worst placing at my pro season was my pro debut where I got ninth, and then the rest of that was like second. Like it was all like very like top placings. I got like a fourth place at one point and then second. So it was very humbling to like come back thinking I was better and thinking I had brought my best package and then getting sixth. And I was like, yo, whoa, like that was not in the plans. Like maybe I didn't expect to win, but like I definitely didn't expect to get sixth. And that it's good. It's a good question because I had already had a lot of feedback that I think a lot of people were pretty aware of, was a lot of like core control issues and like things that were very blaringly obvious. But this time around, my feedback was actually my conditioning in my like glute ham tie-in. So it was like
Mm,
crazy how I had delivered on one part of my feedback, but then needed to like I somehow missed the mark on another. So it was
mm,
challenging in the sense where I was like frustrated, like I had brought my best, but again, here this bringing me back to like, well, as long as you're showing up on stage your best self, that's a win. So I did reframe my mind. I did reframe my thinking in that sense where I was like, okay, I'm upset with this. I am allowed to feel upset with this. Like you said, it's valid. But at the same time, I did show up better and I did deliver on some other feedback. So now, like, okay, great. I have more to work on. Like, give me something else to work on that I can make better. And so that is exactly what happened. And so, yeah, long story short, the feedback was conditioning from the back, really was what it was.
Gosh, I feel like the whole fullness versus conditioning will will always just keep everybody spinning a little bit because
Yes, yes.
it's
I mean,
just
it really like you can see it in the lineup of girls too. Like I'll get a little bit technical like with this. So you can see it when you're looking at all the girls in the lineup, you can see where everybody had these very like conditioned, very tight, very sharp glutes. And then you had me all the way on the end sixth place where it was very soft. It was kind of like maybe not as poppy. It was like, it kind of looked a little bit off from the rest. So that, yeah, that I totally made sense. Definitely.
yeah, something that wasn't controllable beyond just bringing your best,
Exactly.
which I mean, you always look fabulous, but that's just my biased
I
point of view.
appreciate you.
I know everybody does, but yeah, I totally understand that for people who don't listen, because there's a lot of different athlete types that listen to this podcast. There's girls that are trying for their pro card, there's girls that are considering competing, and there's people that have never competed and they just like to listen because they like the life components.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and someone actually asked me that. They said, what in Allie's words gets you to the Olympia level? And at first I was like, that's actually a really good question as far as maybe for you, what do you think brought you here?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. Whoever asked that, like kudos to you because that's a pretty like deep question. And I
Very
think that okay, so what in my words brought me to this point? Um, well, I always like to say that I go back to like becoming a pro and stuff, and I don't think that it's the physique that makes the person a pro, it's the mindset that makes somebody a pro. And it's your habits, it's your daily routines, it's everything that you do day to day and what you do in response to situations like we're going back to like what's going on right now, that's what makes you a pro. And I think that that's kind of what has got me here is that exact mindset of like it's not really like me chasing a win or me chasing like a physique, a certain look or anything like that. It's just me on the daily being better and just making sure that I have like that pro mindset of like this is just a part of my life. There's no on off switch. Like this is just like I'm just doing me. I'm just staying myself and I'm staying true to myself and my habits and my routines and things like that. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It helps tie into another question too for someone that they were struggling with their partner. And I love that they mentioned this because I think, again, you and I are very similar that we I feel like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like your husband is just as much a part of your experience as mine is for me, between just like emotional support and understanding the plan and just the teamwork. And for the person, they said, how would you communicate that lifestyle shift to somebody? Because it's kind of a part of your life. Like you said, it's not an on-off switch. So how would you best help maybe a client of yours, of someone that's struggling with setting that precedent for the relationship?
It's hard. I have to really, and I'm going to be completely honest, I have to step back and try to put myself in someone's shoes in that sense because I feel I'm very fortunate enough and lucky that I never had to have that situation with my husband. It was always something that was very, he was very accepting of. And there's parts of it that still get kind of like iffy for him. Like sometimes, it's like the timing, like, oh, we don't get a lot of time together, or like you get a lot of attention on Instagram or like comments from people that like maybe I'm not comfortable with, or like I think
Mhm.
at first it also was like the level of exposure that you bring to yourself on, like let's be real, we're on stage in a bikini in front of a lot of people that, we don't know. And that gets to be like that kind of real part where the partner might have like a problem with it. And I know that there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it too, but I have to really step back and put myself in someone else's shoes. And I think that for me, it was a lot of like of the communication that I think made that better and helped us grow through this together. So I would say there has to be a level of education and a level of communication that has to be kept up. That's going to be work. It's not going to be just like, one and done here. I want to do this and I'm communicating with you. No, it goes a lot deeper than that. And it has to be this transparency, this communication and understanding that has to happen from both sides. It can't just be the partner giving and compromising constantly with you. You also have to bring a level of understanding and compromise with them too, because my husband has also brought up like multiple times, sometimes throughout, it's like I've had really difficult preps and I've had really easy preps. And this has been ultimately one of my easiest ones. And in comparison to like the past where there has been more difficult ones, it's like, I need to understand and check myself constantly that I'm not using them as an outlet. And I think that sometimes that happens when we are really caught up in like hunger, we're tired, where we have a schedule to keep up. We have a lot of different moving parts going through in our prep. We just really have to kind of, whoa, hold on, like check yourself, check your
Mhm.
attitude, make sure that you are understanding what they're going through, supporting you in that sense. So I think ultimately, if I had to give any kind of advice, it would be that there has to be that understanding, communication from both sides, not just from one side.
Totally. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'm super passionate about those kinds of questions. We actually did, I think it's episodes 14, and then there's another one, prepping your relationships, part 1 and 2. Because I think that's something, like you said, every prep is different too. So sometimes we just go through seasons of more challenges, or maybe there's more challenges in our life. So then the system has to change a little bit. It's not
Yeah.
always plug and chug. So I
Yeah.
think I love how you delivered that, because it's very evident how understanding you are, and how clear you are and what's important to you, but not negating the fact that your relationship is important to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope.
I don't want to like say I'm perfect though, because I have my moments.
Oh no, I love that you admitted to, that thankfully this was an easy prep and that you've had some tough preps. If you don't mind sharing, what's maybe a time where it was more challenging for you, or something that was a tougher prep?
Yeah. Gosh. I mean,
You're doing great. I'm like rapid firing at you.
no, I love it. I love it. I really do because again, like side note, I'm very passionate about the mindset. I think that that's something that I've also come to understand as a coach also, that I really do get passionate about the mindset surrounding competing and surrounding off seasons and things like that. So I actually don't mind you asking these questions because it's challenging me to think, but at the same time, it's something I'm also very passionate about. So I promise it's okay. So, okay. So you said, what was a time that I had more challenge during prep, correct?
Yeah, like a tough prep that comes to mind for you. What made that part tough for you?
So I think it really had to be last prep, like the prep where not going into going pro, but basically my prep going into like my pro debut season.
Mhm.
And that is because it happened very fast. Like it all happened, like it was like one show and then the next show pro card, and then like I think 2 weeks later I did my pro debut. And I'm not one to shy away from stuff like that. Like I'm very much like, if I could have instant gratification, I would, girl, believe me. Like I think like I love instant gratification. This is something in the sport that we've had to be very okay with not having, right?
Mhm.
So I'm fine with jumping into things that maybe scare me a little bit. Like it's not a big deal, fine. But I think that my body also is very sensitive. It's very touchy. I have a lot of like, I've not been very shy to share that I have GI issues. Like I've had quite a lot of GI issues throughout a lot. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, no, we have them at this level and it is a constant struggle. Like this is something that like I've had my entire life, and that competing has pretty much like exacerbated and made worse. And it really like it came to a head like last season, and it was basically like everything happened so quickly, and I was kind of like on the spotlight, like under a spotlight with people like were watching me at that point. People were like noticing, and they were like, oh, this girl, like she won the overall, she went pro, she's doing her pro debut, she's doing all the pro shows, blah, blah, blah. And people start talking about it. And then not only like did I start to feel bad because my whole body was like not like having the prep anymore, like it was getting tired, all that. but also people were talking about it. So it's like the mental side of like, like I'm being told that I have this thing like that people are noticing, but it's almost like I can't be completely honest with people and tell them what is the problem and what's going
Yeah.
on with it. And it's like, it's just not because I couldn't, but because it was like, it's not something that you just want to go out and like tell people, you know, it's not like you want to just be like, well, this is what's going on. Like, it's just not something that, you know, really is something that you share just like every day. And
Mhm.
so I think that was the most challenging part, was that not only was I not feeling great and I was pushing myself to extremes and doing prep and everything, but also people were talking about it and it was under a microscope at that point. So it was like both the mental and the physical side of things.
That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but it feels like that would be a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It's
definitely
like,
was.
oh, you have so much potential, and we can't wait to see what you do next. And are you gonna do this show? Are you gonna do this
Yeah.
show? When are you doing another show?
Yes. And
And
it's like, it's sad because it was like my mind was like, yeah, let's go, let's go. Like in my mind, I wasn't tired, but my body was like, stop, please. Like, oh my God, you like need to quit this. Like, it's like we need to like pull back and like try to figure out if there's something else like we can do or like, you know, address and things like that. And, you know, that's kind of the difficult side, I think, with a lot of people struggle with too. And I know I'm not the only one in that aspect for things where, you know, your mind wants to keep going, but your body is saying no, and that we have to kind of stop and come to terms with that.
no, yeah, not the only one at all. I literally, so on the little jot form I sent you, and I mentioned, embarrassing or funny stories. I always have one just in case, and mine is literally related to that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yep, I can tell you, you said.
It's to tell me, yeah.
Oh, oh my gosh. Well, let's say I'll tell you, and then you can think of one. I'm
Okay,
surprised.
maybe it'll like inspire me. It'll like think
Yeah.
about it.
Okay, so funny. Same this last season because it was kind of back to back. So randomly, this was a season where I did start to have a little bit of like, ooh, I am physically uncomfortable, right? And I can't even remember what I was eating at that time, to be honest. But oh, I was getting carved up into another show because my body was like a furnace at that point. So, it was just like food, 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 food. And it just couldn't keep up. It was just like, hey, yeah, I'm starting to notice I've never had this before. This is my third year, but I'm feeling like physically uncomfortable. And we tried coconut water because it was close to a show, and everyone loves coconut water for the electrolytes. So tried it for the first time, and it's peak week. And for me at this time, this isn't everyone's plan, but for me at this time, it was nothing crazy with my workout. It was a lighter workout, a few movements here and there. So I wish there was footage I could access at the gym just so you could get like a visual. I'm doing I'm doing some like straight arm pull downs, and I'm kind of like hinged backward, and then like, going nice up and tall.
Yes.
And I had coconut water beforehand. And I go to do it, and I go to bring my hands to my pockets. I come up, and let me tell you, the urgency when I stood up, I was like, I was like, I don't know if what I just trusted is what I should have trusted. But
I'm laughing with you. I swear I'm not laughing at you because I can definitely, that's a relatable story. I can relate.
I just wish could see like the panic in my face. Like if there was a way for me to zoom gym footage of me like bent over pulling up, and I'm like, oh, and I kind of like casually leave my stuff and go to the bathroom. And thankfully I was in the clear, but I texted my coach, and have you seen Frozen?
I have,
I was
yes.
like, so no more coconut water. I was like, I almost just had a Yoo-hoo summer blowout in the gym.
Oh my God.
So anytime my husband sees coconut water, he's like, "Hey, you want some coconut water? You want a little cleanse?" And I'm like, "Nope."
You
Like,
know, I might have to like just keep that in my back pocket for next time if I'm like really needing it. Because I mean, maybe I've never had that experience with it, but like maybe I just haven't had the right moment for it.
I
So
don't
maybe
know.
keep that in my back pocket.
I feel like things always change too, just like stuff that used to work, and it happens. But now, I just don't even chance it. I walk right past at the grocery store. I'm like, I'm not gonna learn today. Need
You know
it.
what's really funny? I think that a lot of like competitors, I mean, it's something that we all know, but like we talk about poop a lot more than like anybody does. I think in any profession, even gastroenterologists, I don't think talk about poop as much as we do. So like, it's actually really funny. Like normalize it, guys. Like it's okay. It's not
Oh yeah,
embarrassing.
that's literally why I lead with on the forum, like think of a funny or embarrassing story because I'm like, for one, life's too short not to laugh and make fun of ourselves. And like sometimes in these high stress situations or like, tired weeks, like we just need something to laugh at. Or while you're driving, it's like, oh my God, something similar happened to me. So I love making that a priority in every episode,
Yeah.
just like something funny or relatable, even if it's at my own expense
Yeah. No, I can understand too. I can. I really can. And I love that you just shared that with me too.
on
It's
a public platform.
love it. I love it. This is perfect.
All right, did you think of one? I gave you a little warm up.
Oh my gosh.
It does not have to be
I
poop
mean,
related. It can be funny.
I was like, I feel like on that note, yeah, I probably have plenty of one that are pretty similar. I mean, yeah, I guess in the urgency sense, I definitely have a really good one because it was like, on the topic of all of my own GI issues that I have. There was just one time in I think it was 2019. I think it was like one of my earlier seasons, and I was doing nationals, NPC nationals. It was when it was still in Miami. And I had not gone to the bathroom for, oh my gosh, I don't even know how long it had been at that point, maybe 4 or 5 days. It was terrible. And I was going into show, like I literally needed to do it. And going into Miami at the time, I lived in Pittsburgh, I think. So I like flew, all the way down to Miami. It was or maybe I'd like just moved. I don't know. I don't remember where, but like anyway, I was flying into Miami or whatever. So I had I don't even I think embarrassingly amount of laxatives and different kinds of laxatives to take
Oh,
with me, and nothing was working. Like I literally been taking a laxative every single day. And so when I had gotten there, I went to, I think, the gym with a few girls, and we were walking to the gym from like the place that we were staying. And I remember walking and I was like, oh, oh no, like something's happening. Like I was literally like walking down the street and I was like, oh, I'm starting to panic. Like it's like bridesmaids. Like I'm
I was
literally
just gonna say
I
that.
got like I gotta find out. I gotta go now. Like if we do
It's
not have it
happening.
now, it's happening. Like I literally cannot. And I can't even like make this up.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily nothing crazy happened, but I had to duck into like a Burger King. Like it was so bad. And the Burger King was a one that had the bathroom, but you needed a code to get into it.
Oh my
And
God.
it needed
No.
they needed somebody to you needed to purchase something from there to use the bathroom. And I was
Oh
like,
my
somebody get a soda or something. I don't know, get a water, like something, somebody get something because I gotta go. And I was like
God.
running in there and I was like, you get like, what's the code to the bathroom right now? Tell me right now. And so like they told me the code and I literally like busted in there like White Chicks, like that movie White
Yeah.
Chicks, they like in the bathroom and it's like move bitch. Like and I like
Dairy, like cheese dairy?
yeah. And I luckily I was like, wow, what a day. Like finally, like it was literally the day before show. I think that was literally like one
Oh
day
my,
out, one day out activities. And I'm so happy it happened because I woke up on show day and I was like, I'm a new woman. Like it's great. But yeah, so that and
oh
all that,
my.
like we talk about poop a lot more than we should. I
Yeah.
feel like
And I love that you reference white chicks because like that is like my favorite scene to think of exactly in that. Because I literally last week I had for the first time in like a year a quesadilla. And I said to Connor, I was like,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so the whole dairy scene of white chicks, I understand. Like dairy, like cheese, dairy.
Yes.
Like,
Oh,
like
okay.
I've been an almond milk girly for so long now that my body's
Yeah.
like, what's this?
Mm,
Anyways.
I so get it. Oh my God. Good times.
Oh my gosh, kudos for
Times.
sharing that. I love finally, I love when people equally, put it out there with me.
I got you. I got him. Like, I feel like those are very relatable too. Like both of us in that sense. Like it's like, no, I get it. Like, yeah, but it's a thing.
100%. Oh my God. Um, oh God, what was I just gonna ask you? It was kind of my ADD brain sometimes it's hard to follow.
No, you're
Um,
fine.
But as far as like, I guess reeling it in for, because I'm like, oh yeah, the girls' questions. I have actually naturally talked with you about quite a few of them, but I'm looking at them. So we talked about, you said your advice like to Olympia, like what got you here. But for the people who are listening that are even considering competing, what advice would you give that person?
Oh, I love this so much because I think that there is, and I see this now as a coach too. So I think that as you're getting into competing, there's a lot of thought that it has to be perfect. It has to be, you have to build a certain amount to get to stage. I want to look the best. I want to show up and I want to win. I want to sweep the whole thing right out the gate. Um, no, like don't do that. Don't go into it with that mindset because that's that like I'm focusing on the win, I'm focusing on the end goal, I'm focusing on this rather than focusing on the journey that you're going to have getting there. And I feel that I can use myself as an example where I just jumped into it not knowing anything about competing. I had only been working out for a year. I had not really been I literally looked up YouTube posing. I tried everything on my own. I knew very little about tracking macros or anything like that, and I just did it. And even my first year, because I could make it happen, I went to nationals. And did I deserve to go to nationals? Who deserves to go to nationals? Like go for the experience, go for the learning, go for everything. Like, don't like, if of course, like you want to show up looking your best, because if you aren't, if you feel like you're not going to be confident up there, don't pressure yourself into doing it just for the experience.
Totally.
Obviously you want to go into it and have a good experience. It's not like you just want to push yourself to that, but if you can make it happen and you can feel good doing it and you can go in with the mindset of not knowing what to expect and knowing that it's just going to be fun, you're going to meet people, you're going to get up in front of like judges that maybe have never seen you before, national level judges, even Olympia level judges that are going to see you, and you're going to learn so much about yourself in the process, then you deserve to go to nationals. Like it's like you don't need to, nothing needs to be perfect. It's
Mhm.
like just go into it, and if you're thinking about it, what's stopping you? Like what is it that's stopping you from making that next step and actually going for it? Is
Mhm.
it like the level of determination or the level of dedication that you're going to need? It's just kind of like what, like that question, what is stopping you that you should answer? And then if it's something that you feel is easily overcome, then do it.
Yeah.
It's simple as that, honestly.
I love that you touched on the who deserves and what does that mean, because I think, and not meaning anything towards anybody, but I think sometimes when you hear people talking about someone being ready for a national show or when they should go to a national show, and I do sometimes want to ask that person, well, what if someone just wants to go, like you said, for the right reasons, if you will, for bachelor terms, right?
Yeah.
They want to go for themselves. Maybe they like the experience. Maybe they just want to learn, or maybe they want to get more comfortable with feedback and criteria, because when you're new, so what do you mean nice lines? What do you mean, conditioned more? What do you mean tighter? What do you mean fuller? All those things I feel like you learn through trial and error best with yourself, even if there are YouTube videos and things like that. When you hear and you can get pictures together side by side of yourself, and you get to have the personal gratification of stepping on stage and doing something larger, I think all those are great reasons to get on a national stage, even if so what if someone doesn't think you're going to win your pro card that day? That's not the only
Yeah.
point.
hmm And I think people are so quick to put so much pressure on themselves going into a national show. Like it will be humbling. You will get up there most likely, and maybe not. This doesn't happen to everybody in every situation, but it certainly happened to me where I got up there and I definitely didn't have the size to stand up against those people. I didn't have the conditioning. I didn't have the posing. I didn't have everything perfect right off the bat, but I still did it because I wanted to. Like that's literally
Yeah.
it. Like I just thought, man, this will be fun. I get to go to Miami with my husband and we get to like I've never been to Miami. That sounds fun. And I get to go for this. I get to put on makeup. I get to do my hair. I get to wear the sparkly bikini. I get to like, meet all these people and go and whatever. And it was fun. And I just think that in this sport, especially when you're just starting out, you really have to be comfortable with accepting criticism and accepting constructive criticism. And it's
Mhm.
going to happen throughout your entire journey into competing, into the IFBB, into the Olympia level. Like, you are going to get criticized at every single little thing that you do, and you have to be comfortable with that. And I think that, people tend to shy away from that, or also just, like I said, put so much pressure on themselves to be so great, be so perfect, that it ends up getting in their own, they end up getting in their own way in that sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think what you said about the being okay with being getting the feedback and being criticized a bit for the person, because I know one person for sure that's asking, and I can read her mind where she's like, "Oh, that makes me nervous, to get feedback. What if I don't handle it well?" And I would almost argue, if you're nervous about how you'll handle the criticism, that maybe that's actually a good enough reason to do it, because then that's a perfect life example of, all right, here's how I can better handle the criticism and not tie it to my self-worth or my achievements.
Yes.
Because
I think
that's,
that this sport has taught me a lot about that. And like, it continues to teach me that. Like, I say all of this stuff with the disclaimer that, like, I still sometimes have to remind myself to take my own advice, because it's like,
Mhm.
it every single moment. Like, I even just talked about how last season there were people talking about things that, like, I didn't want them talking about, but like, it's under a microscope, it's being criticized. It's like, yeah, you're in the sport of people analyzing the way that you look. Like, it's going to
Mhm.
happen. And yeah, that's like nerve-wracking, but at the same time, like, I don't know. There's, if you don't think of it such like black and white terms, if you think of it more as like a sport for improvement, and you look
Mhm.
at it as a self-improvement thing, then that can make it a little bit easier, I think, to accept that criticism.
Yeah, 100% agree. You mentioned how you had never been to Miami and now you live in Florida. Did you move that way for the sport and for your job?
Oh yeah, actually, yes. So funny enough, so I went to school to be a vet tech. I know that maybe a lot of people know this, but like, they don't actually know. Maybe like the newer people that know me now into this life, they don't know that my previous life, I went to school to be a vet tech. I sat for my boards. I was a registered vet tech. I worked in emergency for quite a long time, and it's something that I was very passionate about as well. And for a while, I hopped around a lot of different places. Like, I did GP, I did emergency. Emergency had my heart for the longest time. I did research for a little bit, and that's where I was living in Maryland and working like close to DC area. So I worked research. And then that was at the end of my vet tech career. So now I'm into coaching, and that's kind of like where my life has taken me. And yeah, I did move down here to be a little bit closer, because in Maryland we were a little bit away from, like, we didn't have the community that we have here even. And it was like, we kind of felt like we were on a little bit of an island in Maryland. It was like,
Mhm.
who, bodybuilder in Maryland? Like, that's kind of weird, like, who's out there? And so moving to Florida has really given us the opportunity to, one, change the scenery, because now we get summer all the time. And then two, also allows us to be a lot closer to people that have more of our same interests. So yeah,
Right, right.
it really is like for coaching, but also just for the quality of our lives, because both of us are really into fitness. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And what does your husband do? I don't think I asked you that.
He does IT right now.
Okay.
He is trying to get into coaching as well, because he has seen me
Oh,
do
yay.
it, and I've been doing it for a little over a year now. And he takes, and this is the crazy part I don't think a lot of people understand, is that I bounce ideas off of him all the time, because him and I are like yin and yang. Like, he is literally an opposite of me. And I think you might be able to relate to this as well.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like we have a very similar relationship. And so um, I love getting his perspective. If I'm ever stuck, or if I'm feeling like challenged by something, I love running something by him and saying, "Hey, how would you respond to this?" Or "How would you," like, I'd like to pick his brain about things, because he always has such a good way of putting things into words and reframing my mindset in some ways. If I'm feeling like stuck on one thing, he's like, well, maybe think of it like this. And so I think him getting into coaching is probably like one of the coolest things ever to watch him grow into, because he has done IT our entire relationship. Like he's done IT since like 2011, 2012. And now he's kind of looking to make that career switch as well.
I love that. And honestly, so relatable for me personally because, okay, so yeah, shocker, another weird alignment. So I don't know if you know, I'm a physical therapist.
I did. I knew that. Yes.
Okay. I don't always lead the conversation with work. That's just not like, at least not with PT. Like I'll lead the conversation with bodybuilding and with all the things that I super duper love. And not that I don't appreciate PT in the background, but similarly, I'm at a point where I'm transitioning from being a clinician to just using expertise only within this realm. So that's why like Dr. Bikini Posing Prehab came about because I'm just really passionate with my background in dance. And it's
Mhm.
just, I don't know, I think it's so great when we morph into whatever authentic version of ourselves is at that time and not being afraid to change something, even if we went to school for a 9 to 5 to look a certain way, to
Yeah.
use those tools however we need to and then move forward. And it's a lot. So I can relate to bouncing ideas off of your husband because Connor all the time, I'll wait for him to get home. I'm like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I want to hear your ideas. Give me your thoughts. He's
Yes.
my partner, you know?
I love that. And I like what you just said, like backtrack just a tiny bit. I like what you just said about like we morph into these authentic versions of ourselves. And I think that there's a very old school way of thinking that when you go to school for something, that's what you're stuck in. That's it. That's like
Mhm.
the career choice that you've made. And I think
Right.
that it's really, really cool to be breaking that, like that thought of like, well, I went to school to be a vet tech, but like my life choices and what my hobbies and everything has pulled me in a different way, and I'm okay with coming away. I'm closing the chapter on that life and I'm opening the chapter in another one. And I love that multiple people are starting to open up themselves to doing that, because I think that that's just, there's no reason why you should feel stuck in a certain sense of doing something just because that's what life has told you to do.
100% louder for the people in the back.
Yeah, love that.
Which that'll be the last listener question that hasn't just naturally come up. Someone asked, I love asking athletes what their plans are as far as staying in the sport, or if they stop competing, what they think their plans are. And I feel like coaching is going to be relevant for you, but what do you think the next like 10 years or so looks like for you?
Oh, this is such a good one, because I feel like the same way, in the same sense that I came into the sport not really having a plan, it's kind of how I've been moving through the sport already, not really having a plan. So I actually really like that this person asked this question, because it is something that has come up even for myself after this last show that I just did. So you did mention we both turned 30 this year. So um and it's funny because I don't think that I've ever seen myself having kids. My husband really wants kids, but for me, I grew up an only child. I haven't really wanted, ever in my life have I thought, oh, I'm going to see myself becoming a mother. But it's
Mhm.
something that I do have to think about, because again, it's something that my partner likes, and we have to kind of compromise on that. I'm like, okay, do we want kids, or are we okay with not? Right now, we're okay with not having kids. Like we're like happy. We like how this life is going and everything. And we've tabled that discussion and we're like cool with this. Now, 10 years down the road, that can obviously change. And obviously, like 30, I'm not old by any means, like at all. But it is
Right.
something that has to be kind of on the radar. Like, okay, how much longer am I thinking about like going through with this and everything? And right now, I can confidently say I have no end goal in sight of like when I'm hanging up the heels and when I'm like done with this. And right now, I'm very happy and I'm very content with how things are moving for myself. And I'm happy with continuing for as long as my body will let me, as long as like my relationship, my wallet, like whatever, the case is, like I'm very happy with the way that things are going, and I haven't really given it a thought yet. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's hard to like kind of think about, well, I just I think that's kind of how I always lived my life too, is like I've just kind of like whatever happens happens, and we'll know when we know, when the time has come to kind of hang it up and be done. And I think
Mhm.
that, like you said, coaching is obviously relevant. And that's how I love that I'm able to stay so close to this now. Like before I was a vet tech. So when I came out of competition season and I was in an off season, it was more so very separate. Like I was
Mhm.
like, yes, I'm working on myself, but I'm not in it. And
Mhm.
now that I'm coaching people, I have the opportunity to give back and I have the opportunity to still be present in shows and hand out awards and like just be around and be like in this whole thing that I love so much. And so I think that coaching is going to allow me to be super close to the sport, even when I do, if and when I decide that, we're kind of done with this chapter now and moving on to the next.
100%. And gosh, I love everything you said. Again, we're in very similar points of our life and we're in the same boat. And I don't always know of a lot of people that have the same thoughts, because some people are for sure set that maybe both parties involved 100% want kids, some 100% don't. We've tabled the discussion for now too, but we get asked it a lot because we are both 30
Mhm.
and, we're married and we're in a house. So it's just naturally people like to ask.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I think, as far as you mentioned, moving through that, I completely understand because I am more of like an intuitive thinker. So sometimes the 10-year question is so hard for me because sometimes it's just really a matter of I follow what's in front of me and what feels right. When I know with a decision, I know. And sometimes I don't know, which means I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
And I can
Yeah.
relate to that. So thank you for sharing that because I think too a lot of women around our age, I think it's becoming more normal to not know or to say that you don't, but it still feels better when someone else says it because you're like, oh, thank God.
No, and I'm never one to get like offended if people ask because I mean like I know my mother-in-law, she really wants us to have kids and she'll ask us all the time like when are you guys having kids? I'm never like offended by that question at all, but I am always the one who's like no, not for me. Like I just can't. So yeah, I definitely relate to that in every sense of the way. Like it's very relatable.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that we didn't chat about? I feel like we had so many good things, but is there anything we didn't talk about that you would like to?
No, honestly, like I have no words for this. I really did love talking to you. I don't think that I have anything else that we missed. I feel like we did cover a lot and I hope that I just hope that a lot of people can find this helpful in every sense of the way. I hope that I hit on it also from like even the people who are thinking about competing or even not even wanting to compete and they're just kind of doing this as a lifestyle. I hope that it was relevant to them and I hope that if anybody ever has any questions or anything like that too, I'm always an open book. I like to kind of tell people like if you ever have any questions about anything, my
Mhm.
DMs are open. I mean, sometimes it might take me a minute to get back to you, but I promise you I'm definitely an open book about things. So like whatever questions, if people ever listen to this and then they say, well, I had a question about this, just ask. And I'm just Allie. So I promise I'm approachable and I'm not scary.
Can confirm, very approachable. I'm pretty sure you gave me a hug right when we met. So for
Yes.
anyone nervous, she's super nice. Don't be nervous. And I
Yeah.
feel like you said, everyone's human. So um, we appreciate just being valued and being helpful, I feel like is what I get from you. So yeah, if anyone wants to work with Allie, whether it's a lifestyle client, I mean, like you said, it's not just bodybuilding clients that you work with or just some advice. I feel like you're the perfect person to message. So, what is your Instagram if you can plug that to them listening?
Yes. So my Instagram is really simple. It's actually just my name, Allie Vatthauer. It's Allly. And then my last name is Vattauer. It's a really weird last name, but I promise you, if you like have my name on here, it's that simple there. So you'll
And
be
it'll
able to,
be in the comments too, in case they're in
there you
case
go.
they're driving.
Easy.
Well, awesome. Thank you again, seriously, so much for being here, especially during such a big moment in your career and just taking time out of your personal day. I really appreciate you. And I know that everyone appreciated listening to you and your stories. So, and-
Absolutely. No question about it. I would do it a million times over. I'd even do it the day before the show.
oh
So
my gosh, I would never
I
ask you.
absolutely loved talking to you so much, Shannon. Seriously, thank you for
Oh,
this.
thank you. And for everyone listening, if you don't already, make sure to follow all of the shenanigans on Instagram, give this podcast a share, a rate, and send those stories like Allie and I were talking about. It's always
Yeah.
good to make people laugh. So send those that way for people on the treadmill. They just need something to smile about. Just send it my way. Doctor in a Bikini podcast at gmail.com. I hope everyone has a good week and we'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.